street, someone to love. And I saw you walking down the street, someone to love. Someone to love, someone to love, love, love.
Love is probably the coolest,
Most craziest,
most powerful,
most painful,
most spiritual,
most misused word in the English language.
I mean, you could be in love with someone, and that doesn't mean it's going to be a good relationship.
The words I love you don't really have much meaning anymore if it's in order to get somebody into bed.
But let's say you are in love, and you really respect your partner, and vice versa. Then there's no reason why you can't just keep hanging out forever being happy together, right? Okay, maybe the road to a great relationship is not what we expect.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's about time.
Man, is she here?
She's so here. So now. So waiting for you.
Hi. How are you doing?
Say, baby.
I'm Joe. I'm Joe. I'm Joe.
What's going on?
She's a robot.
My name's Joe. Joe. Joe.
A robot? Why am I trying to date a robot instead of a real girl?
Didn't you say you wanted to have a relationship without conflict? Didn't you say you wanted a girl to agree with you at all times about anything? Ain't nobody human like that. Man, check it out. When was the last time a girl let us put pineapple and anchovy on a whole pizza?
I love you. I love you. I love you.
Conflict. Deal with it.
I have to laugh because, like, I mean, it's like we've argued about opening cereal boxes, you know?
Every time we do things, it was always what he wanted to do. And I don't like that.
Because Romeo and Juliet died right after they fell in love, they never had to deal with what happens in all long-term relationships.
Disagreements and conflicts.
These conflicts can be as nothing as anchovies on pizza.
Or as huge as whether or not to have sex.
Maybe it's how we handle these conflicts that makes or breaks our relationships.
Take the J word, jealousy.
If that's gotta be number one on most people's top 5 lists of reasons to feel bad or break up.
We all have those fears within us that we're not good enough for the other person or they're gonna cheat on us, and we have all this doubt, which I think is pretty natural.
I hate to see her talking to other guys. It kind of tears me apart. But it's okay for me to talk to other girls. You know, it's just that whole contradiction.
I'm not jealous because my partner's actually doing something bad, because she's not. It's something that comes from, I think, like, stuff that precedes the relationship, like insecurities that I have that she's not responsible for.
I just sort of got used to the notion that, you know, she's beautiful. There's going to be a lot of guys looking at her, you know? And I guess that would, like, you know, I kept on telling myself, that's a compliment, you know, you're with her. And
just came out of one that was just, you know, I called you at 2, at 3, and 4, and you weren't there. What were you doing? Well, I was out. Well, why were you out so late? Why were you calling to check on me?
in no way was it her fault, you know? It was like other guys looking at her, so it was like, why would I be jealous of that?
It was a bad situation. He didn't trust because I had so many friends and could go out. He didn't trust that, you know, just didn't trust me.
So let's say if I'm jealous of a certain person that she's friends with, like, what I have to do is maybe be honest about that, tell her that, and then just figure out what I need to do myself to take care of that. That I don't get to say, okay, so don't hang out with her because it makes me feel this way. Which I've had boyfriends doing that to me. You know, and saying, like, it makes me feel this way, so if you love me, you won't hang out with this person.
I was uncomfortable when they were together, and he was aware of that, so he tried not to spend excessive time together with her. But I also had to just accept it and deal with it. I couldn't let that control his actions. You know, she was his friend before we were together. And
you know, it was really helpful to talk to her about it because she could affirm me, you know, and our relationship and be like, you know, you're tripping, we're just friends, it's all good, I'm with you, like, don't trip.
So you get jealous.
We all get jealous. We all get angry.
Yeah, only robots and badly written characters in sci-fi movies can get away without feelings of insecurity.
It's what we do with our jealousy that counts.
For some of us, jealousy is a monster that eats our relationships alive.
For others, it's a non-existent issue.
What's the secret of making jealousy go away?
Trust.
A mutual trust.
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 Like a truster.
Trust doesn't happen overnight. You don't meet someone and trust them the next day.
I could just like tell her anything, she wouldn't tell anybody anything. It's between me and her, that's it.
I just think that love and trust are just so tightly connected. I don't see how you can love someone and not trust them completely in what they're doing and their decisions that they make.
Trust is the foundation of the house. You need trust. If you don't have trust, it's gonna collapse.
Trust for me comes through time.
There has to be some point where you say, okay, I trust you. And I trust that when I'm not with you, you're not gonna do anything to hurt me. And I think that's so unbelievably difficult to do.
That I can still go out, that I don't have to feel like I have to stay home, you know, just because he's home. But yet he's comfortable enough to know that I'm gonna go out, have a good time, but yet I'm coming back home.
You're almost walking on eggshells because you don't want anything to happen where that trust is gone, because once the trust is gone, you know that that love is probably gonna go with it.
It's precious, because when it's broken, it's really hard to get back.
Some people find the commitment that goes along with trust to be scary. Because to trust someone, we gotta give something of ourselves. To get trust, you gotta be willing to be vulnerable. And that ain't easy.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the fears that I had, or, you know, it's just like, there was someone that I love, and I know them, and, you know, pretty soon they know everything about me. You know, it's like, you know, my intimate secrets, you know, things from my heart, and just, you know, all of those, and that was sort of scary for me. It was just like, wow. And I don't know, maybe I thought about it as she had ammunition against me, I don't know, or she could throw it back in my face, you know.
And when you make yourself vulnerable, you put yourself out there, and you put your whole self out there in a way that when if I'm walking around with my defenses up, not being vulnerable, I'm covering myself, I'm protecting myself so I won't get hurt. And for me to try to make a connection with another person while I have these walls around me, there's the walls in between, and I get stuck with that.
So maybe if you're thinking, hey, I can handle vulnerability, and I want to get a piece of that trust thing going too, you gotta wonder what can make or break trust.
When she found out that I was, I had another person on the side, and she not heard it from me, but heard it from someone else, and then I get confronted with this, I'm really guilty. I couldn't explain myself, and so I said, yeah, yeah, that's the way it happened, and it just feels bad, and to try to repair what had happened, it's impossible. I can't say, oh, just forget about it. I won't do it again, but it's real, it happened, it happened. That did hurt her feelings.
Lying it relates to trust. I mean, if you lie, then you break the trust that you work so hard to build with that person.
Once you lie to me, I'm done. I will not trust you again.
Once you start to lie, you question yourself, you question your commitment to the relationship.
If one person is lying and withholding information, that can give them a lot of power over someone else.
Then if you could lie, maybe they could lie to you. And if they could lie to you and you could lie to them, then what do you have now?
Some people say that true honesty is an ideal that no one in the real world could live up to. Is that true?
Are there times when an honest, trustworthy person lies? And what would that really do to a relationship?
There's a certain level of social standards. Like, if you say, how do I look this evening? And I'm like, man, you're ugly, whatever. Like, that's completely unnecessary.
She asked me, do you think that girl's cute? No, I don't think she's cute. Deep inside, I know, Yeah, I think she's gorgeous, but I don't want to tell her that.
Even if it's a small thing, it's still a lie, you know what I mean? It's just, It ruins everything in a relationship.
Is this really violating our trust? If the person found out that I was lying, would that destroy our relationship?
I would deal with it a lot better if you just told me and hurt me than if you would lie to me.
I mean, I want a girl to be honest with me no matter what she thinks like the consequences would be of her telling me. Because I have like a right to know like the truth and she has a right to know the truth about what I think.
Both sides are open and honest and all that stuff with each other. I think that can blossom into a whole new area.
Because once you're honest with someone, it's really easy to just be in a relationship.
Okay, check it out. In an ideal world, if we're in love,
Then we'd want to base our romantic relationships on respect and equality, which makes it both fair and fun for both parties.
in an ideal world,
We'd want to learn how to deal with conflict, since we don't plan on dating a robot.
in an ideal world,
We don't want to crash and burn against any emotional walls like possessive jealousy.
in an ideal world,
We want to learn how to develop trust by learning to be honest and not lying to our partner.
in an ideal world,
But we live in the real world.
yeah. So how can we get all that?
It's all about communication.
You may have tons of things in common and you may enjoy each other's company and have a great time when you're together, but if you can't talk about issues that are creating conflict between the two of you, and everybody I think has conflicts, it's not necessarily a sign that you're completely incompatible people, but you have to be able to work through those by communicating with one another.
And it's hard because if you can have that conversation and their relationship falls apart and it's just like, if I had done something different, if I didn't bring this up, would we still be together? But the truth is, if it was important enough to you to bring it up, don't you want it to be important enough to him also?
If something was going wrong, he wouldn't just blow up at me, he'd pull me aside and be like, well, this and this is wrong and we need to solve it. Like, we'd kind of talk things out instead of yelling at each other where nothing really gets solved.
And personally, I'm always so scared that am I asking too much? Are my needs too much?
I think I threw it out there like, hey, what we should do? We should just check in with each other, of how we're feeling, maybe like once a month or something, like just have some time, to ourselves, maybe like go, to a park or something, or just, hang out somewhere where it's not a lot of people and just talk about us, and see what you need from me and what I need from you.
I know if I don't like something that's going on, I know I can say, look, this is not right, I don't like this. And I have no fear that he's gonna say back to me, well, I don't care what you think. He's gonna listen to me and he's gonna hear what I'm saying.
He ought to know what I think. He ought to know what I feel. He ought to know what I want. He ought to know I don't like this song. He ought to know I love him. But right now I need to go home because my mom is sick and I need to be with her.
He ought to know, but he doesn't unless you tell him.
Check it out. This song is tight.
Yeah, it's okay.
Even when you're in love, you can't read someone's mind. Try talking and listening. With some practice, it can work.
Sometimes I've been just wanting to do whatever he wants to do and, just kind of, I don't know really what the word is, but too girly, to just, oh, that's fine, and laughing and whatever. And I've had people, I've had guys tell me, just, will you make a decision?
So many conflicts come out of misunderstanding, and boy, my life has been a crash course on conflict resolution, and that's all about communication. It's all about being able to listen, because communication isn't just speaking, it's listening and being able to really hear and listen and then respond.
If communication is one of the secrets to a great romantic connection, why aren't we all doing it? Communicating, telling each other honestly how we feel, think, and believe.
And I told him that I had been depressed for a little while, and I told him about the reasons that I was depressed, and he just started telling me, oh, be quiet, you're being a big baby, get over it. He totally crushed me, and I felt like, oh my God, here I went, and I took a step to open myself up to somebody, and they totally stepped on me.
I don't think I'm a bad dresser, but he came to my house, to my apartment, looked at my clothes and goes, oh, you have one or two nice things.
Because I think I used to think that if I was right, I could like pretty much say and do whatever I wanted.
When I'm talking or she's talking, we have a tendency to just interrupt. Well, wait a minute, and that's one thing that makes it difficult or frustrates me when we start pointing a finger at each other and say, well, what about you? Remember when you did this? Remember when you came late to pick me up?
Like, it's okay that I'm angry. I get to be angry. But also, like, remembering, again, what are my values about how I'm gonna be when I'm angry? That I'm gonna express that, but I'm not gonna be vicious, I'm not gonna be mean.
Because there's a point where, the emotions are so high and there's such investment in that minute, right then, that it's so challenging to try to think clearly or try to really listen accurately, all these things. And so sometimes just taking space is super helpful.
It seemed like one of us always was right, and we wouldn't give up our ground, And in that, I think the yelling and the walking out, slamming doors, hanging up phones, that all came into play.
You want it to be as healthy as possible and not go anywhere, that can become dangerous. So I think that was one of our tactics. The other one, and completely conversely, was sticking to it and like talking it through until we finally got to an understanding.
Like I sound like a lawyer kind of, where I'm like, but you said this, but 2 days ago you said that, which is it? And just kind of like building this really strong argument that can just be really, really frustrating to her. And where eventually she just feels like there's no point in even trying to say anything.
There's communication, and there's
manipulation,
humiliation,
threats,
intimidation,
name calling.
All these things include talking, but they don't include listening.
So they're not really communication.
Which in an ideal world usually includes the skill of compromise.
I prefer to say negotiation to compromise. I don't know why. But to me, it's just what negotiation is about is, there's nothing negative about it to me. It's just the fact of two people who are different trying to figure something out together.
If one person is having to compromise something, I guess the other person in a relationship making some sort of equal compromise to be able to reach a common ground, rather than one person sacrificing a lot of things for another person to be able to do, whatever they want to do.
And of like the people being decent and fair and not trying to get over on the other person, and also being like respectful to yourself, that I'm not letting someone get over on me.
Compromise can be a great strategy when both people agree in principle, but disagree on specifics. Like if you both want to go out, you can compromise on the movie.
But there may be times when compromise is not possible. Like if your partner would like for you to do something dangerous or illegal, or just something you don't feel is right for you.
Or like if one person wants to break up. People hardly ever agree on that. But if you're going for a good relationship, then you need to be able to respect your partner's right to not want to be with you anymore.
Breaking up is never easy, but it is a part of finding the best relationship.
Like equality, a compromise can only work if both parties respect each other. If both people respect the rights and values of the other.
Part of approaching people in a loving way is being open to them and being open-hearted. And so that's actually a place where sometimes when I'm in conflict with my partner and I just feel myself kind of like digging my heels in and wanting to be stubborn and wanting to be right, I actually will kind of stop and sometimes pray to like open my heart.
We both had a lot of emotion when we argued, because we felt we were so right. And so compromise was the last thing on the mind. It's like, I gotta prove this point.
That doesn't mean that I'm gonna like then approach her and say whatever she said is right, but that I'm like asking to be kind of able to move towards her in a like receptive, open, loving way.
Everything doesn't have to have a winner and a loser. If you're in a relationship, if you're going for the win-lose, everybody's gonna lose. But if you're going for the win-win situation, that's where you pick up the compromise and the learning how to talk to each other. Why
is it not okay to just use whatever we can use to kind of get what we want in the relationship? Is that to me, like what that boils down to is that that's not okay with God.
Now I know that, in order to be a person with respect and in order to have pride, you have to give it out.
To me, it's not okay with God for me to be a bully or manipulative, because that's not my best self. That's not what I'm expected to do. And it's also not being decent and respectful to another person.
Respectful. Maybe that's what all good relationships boil down to.
It's not just love that makes things work. It's love and respect together.
Think about it.
Maybe what we all want out of a relationship can only be found through respect.
Think about all those good things that can come from respect.
Love.
And intimacy.
It should be fun, trust,
open-minded, love,
and communication.
Honesty.
Friendship.
He understands.
Not lying.
Being fair.
Somebody that helps you grow.
supported and encouraged.
An ally that you can have to help you.
We share the power.
If you can compromise.
Because I know that if I ever need anything or she ever needs anything, we got it. We're there.
It's all that I know.